Kamala Harris is in the process of running the single most reproductive justice focused campaign for US president in the history of our nation. There is nothing more exciting for the 1 in 8 American voters who are most focused on the issue of abortion access and abortion rights than watching Vice President Harris on the path to becoming President Harris. These are completely unprecedented times, and Kamala Harris is centering abortion access, reproductive justice, Black maternal health, and all aspects of reproductive justice in her campaign. That has never, ever happened before. As someone who has been watching these issues for years, who wrote a doctoral dissertation about this work, I could not be more excited to see what Kamala Harris brings to her presidential campaign. Charles and David, I am so excited to talk about this with you today. I cannot contain myself.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
All right.
Dr. Kiana Scott, thank you for joining us on this episode of CP3D, the series within the With CP podcast. David, how in the heck did we get Kiana?
Kiana got us. Let's get this straight, okay? This is like, I have known Kiana for, I don't know how long now, 15, 10, 12 years. And there has never been a moment that Kiana has not kind of driven this bus. All right. And that's totally good with me because I respect you so much, Kiana. Great, great, great. So, Charles, we're basically visiting with Kiana right now. That's what's happening on this podcast.
I love that.
All right.
I love that. That's how it should be.
I love it too.
That's why we started it that way. And Kiana put us on notice basically, and she said, you all need to talk about this moment through this frame. And then we said, you need to show us how to talk about this moment in this frame. We can't do it like you can.
Let me just give a little introduction here. So Dr. Kiana Scott is the founder and president of Kiana Scott Strategies, and she is a communication and strategy consultant, including for Common Power in her work around the Northwest and country. She also is the president of the National Women's Political Caucus of Washington. Kiana also, back in 2007, uprooted her life to go work for Barack Obama in Iowa in his candidacy, and has been involved even before that in the civic and political space. So can you give us just maybe 1 minute of a journey through the Kiana Scott highlights without explanations, just riffing on what things that you've touched on that are going to inform this incredible conversation we're about to have, Kiana?
Wait, hold on. I think you're missing a key part of this, which is Kiana was there
exactly
at the birth of CP. She was there at the very beginning of CP, and is one of the, on March 3rd, 2018, the very first meeting, the first public meeting of Common Purpose at the time. She was one of the people that I met that kept me there, okay, because I was going to leave. And I was like, hey, what? Hey, where are the rest of us, Kiana? And she was like, it's cool. You know, stay. You should stay. Check it out. Here's, I know we're just getting started right here, but we need you. Yeah. Okay. So yes, please tell us all the other awesome things, but we had to include the CP part.
I'm going to limit you to 6 highlights. Okay.
6 highlights. Ooh, okay. I'm going to take us back to New Hampshire, 2003, November 2003. Is that right? Is that about right? November 2004, when I went and volunteered on the Carrie Edwards campaign and was in a little town called Lebanon, New Hampshire, volunteering on the campaign. I was a college student in college in Massachusetts, and was desperate to see a change in our politics and in our political power in this country. Didn't pull it out, but we changed to New Hampshire. That really inspired me to go work on politics. I moved to, so that's number 1. Number 2, moved from Williamstown, Massachusetts, tiny little purple bubble in the middle of a very bucolic range of mountains, to Muscatine, Iowa, Pearl of the Mississippi.
Whoa.
In June 2007 to work for a guy named Barack Obama, who was running for president of the United States. Muscatine is right on the Mississippi, shared a media market with neighboring Illinois. So a couple people in Muscatine, Iowa had actually heard of him, but not many. Moving there was a really formative experience for me, not to be capped by January 3rd, 2008, which is the day that Barack Obama won the Iowa caucus. That's number 3 for me. That even more so than winning the presidency was a sign of how much a few people who are driven, who are passionate, who are smart, who are focused can really, really do. Ooh, 3. Okay, that's 3. I will jump ahead to meeting David Domke,
That's
who
what I'm talking
I bullied
about.
into becoming my dissertation advisor, and who is the reason that I got my PhD at the University of Washington in the Department of Communication.
This is the real reason why David brought you on.
This is why David agreed to having me on the podcast. I was really excited to study contemporary US politics and the narratives that candidates build and craft and create for themselves. No one better to do that with. So David and I had the chance to work together. I'm delighted that he accepted me and molded my brain and has allowed me to sort of push back against him in some ways over the years, and that we can just keep working together. That's number 4.
Up to 20 seconds ago. Yes.
Up to 20 seconds ago, exactly. Number 4.
No, that was 4.
That was number 4. Number 5, I'm doing 4.5. Or I'll do 5. I'll do a 5 and a 5.5. Number 5 is the election of Donald Trump. Horrific moment in American democracy and American history. Not the low point, it turns out, but the signal of a lot of scary, scary times that were to come, a lot of despair, a lot of dread, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of hardship and sorrow and heartbreak and real, real loss. Number 5.5, the announcement that Dobbs was going to be overturned, the leak of the Supreme Court. I went out and tabled that day with the National Women's Political Caucus of Washington, participated in the Bands Off Our Bally's rally, and came home to take a pregnancy test to find out that I was pregnant with a much wanted baby. But I was tracing my pregnancy with the knowledge that at 6 months pregnant, I knew I was pregnant because I was watching it, because I was paying attention. If I lived in Texas, I might not know, and my choices would be eradicated at that point.
At 6 weeks, you mean? At
6 weeks.
Yeah.
So going through something in really real time that was such a bodied and embodied experience for me was incredibly powerful, deeply motivating. These were already issues I cared about deeply, but these were issues that I now could feel and could really just had no choice but to hold. That's number 5.5. And number 6, Kamala Harris is running for president, guys. How exciting is that? I don't know about you, but I do know a lot about you, actually. And I know that we were all jointly and independently and universally committed to doing everything we possibly could to reelect Joe Biden. We were all going to get out there. You guys are traveling all over the place. I'm doing some work behind the scenes. We're all totally focused on getting that guy in the White House, letting him carry on for a second term. I was not doing so with enthusiasm. I was not doing so with as much energy as I have now. Part of that's not fair. He has an amazing legislative record, and I think so highly of his presidency. But for me, he was not a president who could meet the moment. Kamala Harris is. She is bringing energy. She is bringing focus. She is bringing enthusiasm. She is bringing new policies. She is bringing a deep record of legislative and policy achievements. I could not be more excited, and I am feeling cautiously optimistic, which is the best way to really buckle down and go to work.
Yeah.
That brings us to today. That brings us to a couple of days ago when I texted you guys and said, we've got to talk about this.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. Yeah, that's a great journey. David, you're in half of that. You got any response to that? I feel like this is all a setup, but go ahead.
No, I feel like there are so many things that at this point in the last period of time for Common Power of paths crossing and then recrossing.
Mhm.
All right. And Kiana being there at the beginning, and then Kiana coming back at this new phase of your life, of your career, right? And having you be spending time with us, thinking about some of the future directions of Common Power and consulting with us, and also your constant drive and wisdom and determination to make sure that we're hitting a range of topics, especially dimensions that distinctly affect women in this society, right? So all I got is that I really am thrilled to be here, and I'm honored to be in that journey. And so let's go back to your opening, Kiana.
Yeah.
Tell us, let's link it to point 6. Tell us, and again, in whatever words you want right here, why we're at this historic moment that is not only about the identity of this person, but is also about the policies of this person.
Absolutely. All of us on the call on this podcast right now have had the opportunity.
We call it a podcast, but we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's whatever. Yeah. I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Her
please,
policies,
Charles.
her identity, and then in between that, her ability to communicate it. Because I think
Yeah,
that's one of the major
right?
differentiators, right? Is that she can get people to understand what her policies are.
Yeah. And I think that's a new skill, and we can come back to that. So Kamala Harris is running a presidential campaign that is proactively and unapologetically centering abortion rights. And she is the candidate that America needs right now. Abortion access is the #1 issue, not a top 5 issue, the #1 issue for 1 in 8 American voters. 1 in 8.
Totally agree. Yeah.
People are paying attention. We have seen the power of women in this country. We have seen the power of Black women in this country politically. Black women are behind every progressive achievement that America has made in the last 100 years in the history of the US. You could make a very real argument there. This is an issue that is so important to so many people, and that Joe Biden was afraid to talk about. Joe Biden was pro-choice, came to become pro-choice later in his life. He did not like mentioning the word abortion. He backed into it. He would talk around it. He would not be the proactive champion that Kamala Harris has been as vice president, was as a vice presidential candidate, and now is as the presumptive Democratic Party nominee for president in this year. Joe Biden focused on abortion issues for maybe 30 seconds in his State of the Union in 2023. In 2024, he actually dropped the word abortion from his prepared remarks in the State of the Union. He doesn't like talking about it. He doesn't feel comfortable talking about it. He is not leading into it or leading with it. He, in fact, tapped Kamala Harris, his vice president, to be his administration's leader on reproductive justice issues. That's a choice that makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, but one of those key reasons is that Joe Biden himself was not comfortable talking about this issue. And people could tell. Voters can tell. Citizens and people across the United States could tell. Kamala Harris doesn't have that problem at all. Kamala Harris is out there leading with this. One of the first things she said is that as president, as soon as Congress passes a national abortion rights bill, she will sign it into law. She is saying that proactively. She is offering that. She is telling us that that is a priority for her. She's telling us that's where her values lie. She is not skirting around this. She has really, you can tell budgets and time are how you can tell where a presidential candidate's, really any candidate's values and priorities are. She visited
time and treasure. Yeah,
time and treasure, absolutely.
Yep.
She visited an abortion clinic in Minnesota in March of this year. She was the first known president or vice president to visit an abortion clinic while in office.
Really?
That's not an accident. She has been showing us her work every step of the way. And now, as presidential nominee, she's continuing to show us that work. She's just doing so on a much, much bigger stage. So she is leaning into this. She is leading with it. And she is telling us she is listening to the fact that voters in red states, in blue states, and purple states are prioritizing abortion access and reproductive justice. We're seeing that in places like Kentucky, in Texas, Arkansas, I mean, people are crawling out of the woodwork across the country, standing up for abortion access. I am so excited to have a presidential nominee who's going to meet them where they are.
Let's just pick up it very concretely.
Yeah.
And because there's a couple different things we want to touch on in this podcast, but are you saying that not only does she show up, but that she talks a distinct way? Because this is the communication point that Charles is getting at too. That there's some way that she communicates it, maybe not only just in her words, but also in just the way she moves and so on. That is something unique beyond not just Joe Biden, but that is something profoundly interesting about her.
Yeah,
also, is it specifically does she use the word abortion, or does she say reproductive rights or women's rights? Or
she uses the word abortion. She also uses the words reproductive justice, because reproductive justice is a concept that encompasses more than abortion rights. And reproductive justice, at the end of the day, is what is under threat by Republicans. It is the ability for people to access contraceptive. It's the ability for people to access any form of abortion access that they need. It's also the ability for people to access medical procedures that may lead to them having pregnancies that they want. So we know that IVF is under threat in state legislatures held by Republicans. It is the full spectrum. It is not just abortion. That is where Kamala Harris is focused, but she is also talking about Black maternal mortality, which is a huge issue in this country that's deeply connected to reproductive justice. So she's taken us to school. She's telling us how to think about these issues. She's not just telling us where she stands and where the Democratic Party should stand. She's bringing us along with us, broadening our understanding, helping us connect some dots, and helping us as the American people see what is under threat. It's not just abortions, although it certainly starts there.
Yeah, and I mean, that last one, Black reproductive justice, I mean, that goes all the way through enslavement.
Absolutely.
That is like the root of our the origins of our country. That has been something that has been not progressed. I mean, well, everything has gotten better since enslavement, but that's always been an issue since then. It's not just a modern issue.
Yeah, America has a really has a bad history of limiting people's rights, and specifically this way. And there's a huge racial element there.
So, on this piece of like her messaging different, her injecting this new level of excitement, her just completely revolutionizing the race, you see this influx of young folks come in, and there are all these elements of, she's newer, she's younger, she's definitely more fucking cool, just plain cool.
Totally.
She's dancing, she's laughing, she's singing, like she embodies this like joy while she's going through all this tough shit that she has to go through. And so she's resonating with these younger folks. And for them, I'm always reminded of this, and we are, Kiana, you and I are about the same age, but we've seen the ebb and flow of politics. And we've seen, we remember when things used to be a certain way, and they've, some things have gone bad, and, some things have gotten better. For them, they're like, you took away our rights. Like I became an adult and saw my rights stripped away from me. This is this massive thing for them where they get that back.
One of my earliest television news memories is watching coverage of the Columbine shooting. And there is a hole that is something that has impacted our generation, Charles, that's continuing to impact, obviously, people today. This generation probably has something similar with Brett Kavanaugh's SCOTUS hearings, right? And the role that Kamala Harris played there in taking this battle to the enemy and showing just how full of shit they are. And she is, we've skirted around this a little bit, but we're talking about her communication style. It's not only her word choice, it's not only where she's choosing to go, it's that she is so clearly itching for a fight. Because she knows that she will win. Because this is what she does, right? Her whole history is as a prosecutor. She's used to building arguments. She's used to building cases. That's really been the narrative that she's crafted broadly for her presidential campaign, so that she is the person who could prosecute Trump. She is also the person who can build a strong and compelling and airtight case against why it is fucking ridiculous for a panel of old white men to judge anyone else's decisions about their bodies.
Yeah, well, she's got that question with Kavanaugh, right? What's the question, Kiana, that she famously asked Brett Kavanaugh?
Can you name any law that limits male bodies? Something right along those lines. And he could not do it.
And then he's like,
there aren't any.
He's like looking around, you know, like, no.
He couldn't do it. And she knew he couldn't do it.
I want to come back to this point to pick it up. That was an example of it. But she thrives in that kind of like, I'm going to nail you to the wall kind of discourse.
And
right?
I am going to laugh the whole time I'm doing it. This is fun. She is bringing energy. She is bringing excitement. Like, clearly she is really, really stoked to be doing this. Not stoked to have a fight for the sake of having a fight, but stoked to move forward and to just show, again, how full of hot air a lot of these bozos are who have been legislating women's bodies and people's bodies.
Yeah, there's a clip of her also when she was attorney general in California, you know, getting on the phone with the marriage registrar in Los Angeles, right? And saying, you will start processing same-sex marriage right now. And that, like, there's obviously some hesitation on the other end of the line. She's like, you will do it right now. All right. And she's just so happy, right? She's like, ha ha ha, I'm in charge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She has real courage of conviction in the work that she's doing right now. And that is such a difference between Kamala Harris running for president talking about reproductive justice and Joe Biden running for president avoiding reproductive justice.
Yeah. And there's the interesting thing about being somebody who has climbed the ranks and been a public figure for so long is that she's got receipts.
Yeah.
Like there's no like theoretical, you know, I'm going to behave this way when I get in office. She's like, Google me, because the videos are there of me giving a damn about same-sex marriage, reproductive justice, housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is like, I do this. This is what I do. And I've done it for decades. I've done it for decades. And there are videos of me doing it. That is me. And go, like, forget what I'm telling you. Go and look me up, because I'm the real deal.
Yeah. And, you know, it is, obviously she is running for president as Kamala Harris. She is bringing her identity and her life story into this. But this is a policy issue that she isn't talking about solely because of who she is. She's talking about it because it's something she cares about. And that it's not tied to her story. It's not tied to her identity. She's not saying, I support this because I'm a woman. She's saying, I stand for this and I advocate for this because this is the right thing to do. Because the other way of doing this is ridiculous. This is what we should be focused on. And that, to me, is a big piece that separates her.
I want to ask you to compare her and Hillary Clinton on this topic of reproductive justice, and also maybe generally the way that they lead in their female bodies. All right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are still in a place in this country. I've been able to vote for a woman for president a couple of times now. I voted for Hillary Clinton. I voted for Elizabeth Warren. I cannot wait to vote for Kamala Harris for president this year. That is still unusual. There has never been a woman elected president in this country. There have only been 2 women nominated. One of them isn't even nominated yet. One of them is about to be nominated. Kamala Harris is the first vice president who was a woman. Women running for any office, particularly the highest in the land, are going to be under so much more scrutiny than any male candidate. And we have to state that up front, because that continues to be the case.
100%. Totally agree.
Kamala Harris has the benefit of not being the first woman to run for president. She also has the benefit of being vice president. She is not running as an outsider. She is running from traditionally the most well set up position to ascend to the Oval Office, following the footsteps of the person who put you in their administration as the number 2. She has had 4 years showing that she is ready to be a heartbeat away from the presidency, that she is a heartbeat away from the presidency. So she's running from a really different place. Hillary Clinton had a much, much, much tougher battle to run
this is
as
so
a
good.
candidate.
This is really good. Yeah.
I never thought about this one point, is that Kamala doesn't have to be the first to run.
She's not the first to run. She is, when she is on a debate stage, if Trump debates her, she will not be the first woman who has debated Donald Trump as president. She's gotten to see what works and what doesn't work as a woman opposing him.
And not the first to run against Donald Trump specifically.
Not the first to run against Donald Trump specifically. She gets to take all of what she's seen over the past couple of years, all of what we've seen, we as a society have seen over the last couple of years, and think about how she can approach it. That's really, really different from Hillary Clinton, who was fighting an uphill battle every step of the way. Every single step she took, every single primary she contested, every single debate stage she was on, she was the first. That is an unbelievable burden, unbelievable burden. And she had to do it having slogged through decades of negativity.
Yeah.
So Hillary Clinton, when she was in, I mean, this is such a well-known story, but when she was First Lady of Arkansas, she made cookies. She had said, I, want to do something more important with my life. I have a job. I'm not just First Lady. Huge outcry. She apologized. This was on a local morning show, I believe, and she made Hillary Clinton's cookies. And this was sort of her overt feminization to say, no, I'm not. I can be in public view. I can be in public life as a woman. And she received immense pushback and outcry for that. That was clearly really formative for her. She spent her presidential campaign trying to toe an impossible line. I mean, there's just no way that she could have done this successfully, because this isn't a battle that can be won, about being the first woman running for president without being too feminine, without playing the woman card, but while embracing this historic first. She had to make choices that reflected that complete area of awfulness. I mean, there was no way she could win there. Anything she did was messing it up in some way. Kamala Harris still has so much of that that she's facing, but less. She's able to have a little bit more space. She can go on. She's doing a bunch of like cooking things that are coming up on TikTok these days that the kids are loving. She's able to lean into being mamala, to being an auntie, to having, this loving relationship with her husband, who could be the historic first gentleman, in a way that Hillary Clinton couldn't, in a way that when Hillary Clinton did it, because Republicans had such just an eye out to get her, anything Hillary Clinton did was under attack. Anything Kamala Harris does will be under attack, but it will also not be the first. And that just makes it so much easier. Still really hard.
There's so much good there, Kiana, to listen to you explain and to talk about. And it's clear that we at CP, Charles, you had brought this up the other day when we were talking. We need to do a kind of a deep dive into the candidacy and the identities of Vice President Harris, like a 2 or 3 lecture deep dive. All right, because this is so interesting. And so you have just made me, and I'm not trying to be joking about this. You've just made me enormously respective of what Clinton was able to do.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah, I immediately start thinking of it through a different lens. Yeah,
like unbelievable. All of that. And she's running from the former first lady and all of the challenges that come with that. Harris stands on her own. And she comes from the vice presidency. Like, she just starts from a whole different position.
She starts from a whole different position. And you also cannot imagine Kamala Harris, Black woman, South Asian woman, woman who does not have biological children. She has stepchildren. She does not have children. It's already an area in which Republicans are attacking her. Cannot imagine her having run in 2007 and having it work. Not to say Hillary Clinton ran so that Kamala could fly, but like, this is what progress looks like, right? It looks like people making efforts and cracking that glass ceiling and moving things forward so that someone else has an open window behind them. That's what this is going to take. And that's what Kamala Harris as president is going to do.
Okay. So I'm going to call it right here, David. This is Dr. Kiana Scott's first appearance on CP3D. You'll be back because you what you bring to this, and I mean, your answer could have been, Kamala's got these strengths and Clinton had these weaknesses. It could have been just a straight up ice cold comparison. But that you did it in a way that was fair to both and true and enlightening. And that's the kind of thought that we need to bring to this moment, because it is unprecedented. And people are saying that it is, like, I'm reminded every day about, in different ways, like what you just said is a new wrinkle, where how exactly is this different? It's different in a myriad of ways. And we're discovering that as things roll out. And we're just, what are we, 2 days in? How many days in are we? This is just getting started. This whole ride is just getting started, and it has fundamentally changed the country.
Yeah. The last 50 days in American politics, from Donald Trump becoming a convicted felon in the United States, running for president, that debate, Joe Biden, May 13th or something.
13th,
the debate, when it became clear that Biden just, to my mind, was not up to the challenge, and we entered this period of intense scrutiny and heartrending and hair-rending and fear and panic, to Biden stepping down, to endorsing Harris, to
the shooting,
absolutely.
And then
how do you forget an attempted presidential assassination?
That's
this is where we are right now, right? There is just this. If this was a TV show, we would say, "Whoa, too much. Slow it down."
We wouldn't buy it. We're like,
we wouldn't buy it. Longtime Grey's Anatomy watcher here. I will put up with a lot, but this is too much. There is just so much happening, and what Kamala Harris has managed to do in the last month, let's say, that debate was June 27th. That was supposed to be this signal that Biden was going to win it, turning around a campaign that was in trouble. And instead, and this is coming directly back to Harris, the minute it became clear that Biden wasn't up to it, there was a huge question about what Joe Biden would do. But Kamala Harris was placed under this immense scrutiny as the presumptive successor to Joe Biden, but not the automatic successor. There's no automatic contingency here, right? She is still not the nominee. She is the presumptive nominee. There's immense scrutiny as to what would happen with her if Biden stepped down. She couldn't start campaigning. Her only job was to support the president, but she had to do so in a way that left her open to being a compelling presidential candidate herself if Biden made a decision to step down. Can you imagine?
We were talking about that. The amount of political skill that it takes to do both.
Absolutely.
To fully support somebody and also sell yourself as the next one up, as a huge deal.
And she could not have done that 4 years ago. No way. She really struggled. She has figured out her strengths and her communication abilities. And I can't imagine a candidate who is more poised to meet and beat Donald Trump than Kamala Harris, with her prosecutorial record, her ability to skewer him in so many different ways, and to go after him on the policy issues, certainly including abortion access and abortion rights, where he is so weak and so stupid, and where he has made a really damning decision by bringing JD Vance onto the ticket.
Oh my God.
JD Vance, and
we can't go into JD Vance, but that might be, we're talking like historically bad running mates. He's near the top.
He has the worst public approval ratings of any new vice presidential candidate in
and it's
history.
just going to get lower.
Yeah.
It's going to get lower.
And he is so bad on these issues. He is so bad on these issues.
On the record, not just what he'll tell you now.
On the record, not just what he will tell you now, but he could not be worse, and he could not be more terrifying to me.
So all the more reason that Harris and her running mate will run on these issues, because not only do they have a winning issue, they have a gap, a chasm, a Grand Canyon
huge gap
between them and their opponents. Their opponents aren't like kind of moderate and just not. No, their opponents are like the other end of the continuum. Right? Yeah. I think there's like a 27%, I'm just making up the number, 27% chance that Vance is not on the ticket. In like
they floated that.
Yeah, because I mean, look,
again, what would surprise us at this point?
The Elon Musk money, okay?
Right. Musk totally worked Trump. It's obvious because Musk wanted Vance on the ticket. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, the tech bros wanted Vance. They bought him in, and so now if he's out, I know Trump is like, I don't need this dude. I'm gonna get him out of here. He's not polling well. You know, Trump is always very much like, what is the audience telling us? What are the audience numbers? If Vance isn't polling well, he's out. Okay, so David, you got to close this out here with something. But Kiana, this is again the first time. Okay, I'm already thinking about like what the next one's going to be about. We're going to go deeper on some of these things. Obviously, this entire thing is going to evolve. And so as you're listening to the news, you need to be ready to come on the pod and talk to us, please, pretty please.
Well, I'll tell you what we've got to talk about next time, and that's President Kamala Harris appointing 3 justices to the Supreme Court at least. Because at the end of the day, that is one of the biggest responsibilities that a president
100%.
has. Yep.
And you know that she's got a really good list.
That's right.
Really good list.
That's right. Yeah, and at least 3, because we never know what's going to happen with other ones, and also we could totally change the Supreme Court.
Could totally change the Supreme Court, and there are that again is another place where I would be really excited to have someone with a deep understanding of the legal structure in executive office.
Okay, David.
So every time we start the podcast, Charles and I have a little like quick back and forth about what we're going to talk about and how long we're going to go. And Charles says, we're going to go 20, man, maybe 30 minutes. And I'm like, we're going 45 at least. All right. And so we're at least at 45. But I have to say, Kiana, that you have dropped a lot of wisdom and knowledge on us. And so we are so appreciative. And this is only going to embolden you to like upgrade, because this is what you do. You're like, just a little nudge. You guys, what are you doing? Talk about this, right? So thanks for making the time today, Kiana Scott Strategies. We got to do it like it's like a book, right? Kiana Scott Strategies, right? Hire her, folks. Hire her.
.org. What was the website?
KianaScottStrategies.com.
Okay, that's good. That's good. It's also important that people know, because this is the With CP podcast, that we didn't just bring you on randomly because you're this super smart woman that we know. You're also working with CP. You're a contractor with us.
Yeah.
You have been working directly with us on on governance things, on stuff in the CP future side. You're going to be doing more of that.
Working on developing a board, right? Yeah.
You and I have a meeting on Thursday or something. You're part of the CP. You're part of the broader CP team. So
not only that, but Charles, let me just rudely interrupt you and say, like, I'm working with you because this is how we shift things, right? Kamala Harris isn't here by accident. We don't have leaders running for elected office by accident. We don't have them winning by accident. We have powerful progressive champions at all levels of office, ideally women, but all sorts of people running for office because there are organizations behind them, supporting them, going out and knocking doors, making phone calls, writing postcards, pushing voters to become informed and to stand up for the things that they believe in. That's the work that CP does. So yes, I'm here because I'm working with you, but I'm working with you because I fully believe in everything you're doing. I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to call out to everyone listening. We get Kiana's brain on a bunch of other things within CP. All right,
Yeah,
David.
delighted to be here.
So Common Power 3D, we're out. Okay. All right.
That's so great and corny. I love it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
All right. Bye.